By far the most common question has been something along the lines of, what exactly is home rule? Or I've also heard it asked, is home rule a tax? Home rule is not a tax. It is a description of how the state recognizes the authority of the local community. It is a constitutional right granted to communities over 25,000 residents by local resolution, or to smaller communities by passing a local referendum by voters. It grants power to local municipalities to self-govern in areas that are uniquely local in nature without specific statutory authority from the state. So basically, when a community is non-home rule like we are today, we can only do what the state tells us we can do. If a community is home rule, they can do whatever the state hasn't said they can't do. It creates this unique gray area. This includes determining tax caps and debt limits locally, as well as setting local ordinances on upkeep and maintenance, the ability to opt out of some state unfunded mandates, regulate rental properties, including motels that get used as transient apartments, and determine locally how to handle things like gaming. And I'm watching very closely upcoming issues on things like sports betting and recreational marijuana. The state still maintains statutory control over statewide issues, things like income tax, occupational licensing. It's not a crown or a blank check. It is a way of being recognized by the state as having the right to make more decisions locally. One of the other common questions I hear is something along the lines of, why is home rule even something that the board thought voters should consider? Well, where it first came up as a board discussion was around regulating gaming. The village has been duped a few times by requests for restaurants to come in. They get their liquor license, but then they switch the business model to simply be a gaming parlor, and the food is secondary. As a non-home rule community, we have very little control. State statute links the gaming license and liquor license together for non-home rule communities, whereas home rule communities have created restaurant-only license types that restrict gaming, which is something we heard our residents want on the restaurant survey that was put out last year. I don't like the way that gaming was set up by the state for non-home rule communities, and I'm closely watching how they plan to set things up in the near future for things like sports betting and recreational marijuana. Revenue has also been part of the discussion. We are incredibly reliant on our 2,500 households to fund our village services. When looking at two core financial goals of improving our roads and reducing our dependency on property tax, it requires redistributing how revenue is collected. By adding new revenues that are provided largely by visitors in our community and heaviest users, as opposed to all of our residents, we're able to redistribute how we fund our budget. This is what led us to look at a local sales tax and increasing the fees charged to gaming companies, both of which home rule would allow us to do. Here's how the math works out. Today we are heavily reliant on approximately 2,500 households to fund the village's budget. We have between 1 million and 1.5 million visitors each year to Illinois Beach State Park and North Point Marina for a variety of different activities. In addition to visitors to our own events, regional guests to our restaurants and shops, and commuters coming through our community each day. An estimated $390,000 per year in increased revenue would position us to fund our road improvements up to 40% good graded roads, that's up from a grading of 10% good today, within 5 years, and position us to freeze our village portion of the property tax levy.